Over 4,500 years ago, the Egyptian pharaoh Cheops had a dream to be buried in the biggest pyramid ever built. He wanted his pyramid to be known throughout the ages. The pyramid had to be huge and awe-inspiring, with space for servants to help carry his treasures to the next world, which was where he planned to go after he died. He summoned all the great architects to design its construction. But if the pharaoh wanted to build something so huge and majestic, he would need thousands of laborers over many years in order to build his dream pyramid. After all, this pyramid was going to amaze people for thousands of years. When Cheops saw what his experts were planning, he quickly gathered resources. He called for laborers, engineers, artists, sculptors, astronomers, along with helpers to feed and take care of those working on his project. They even built cities to support the workers. Raw materials for construction were hard to find at the time. They only had simple things like rocks, ropes, wheels, logs, and some very basic metal parts. Despite having few materials, they planned to build a structure that would be big enough to house St. Peter's Cathedral. All of the work was done by hand. First, they hauled rock from distant quarries and sand from the Nile River banks in order to prepare stone blocks, similar to the cement we use today in big buildings. Afterwards, the blocks had to be carried to the construction site. At the construction site, they made a huge ramp that allowed them to build the base of the pyramid. Transporting heavy rocks over long distances in the heat of the day was back-breaking work. Many of the slaves got injured and could no longer work. Some died from such hard labor, and others got trapped under some of the huge rocks. After a third of the pyramid was built, the ramp outside no longer worked, and they built a new ramp inside. The inside ramp was not as high off the ground and offered protection from the blazing sun. As a result, work was much simpler and faster, with fewer accidents. Little by little, year after year, the pyramid grew taller, and Cheops grew prouder of his masterpiece. Everyone would remember him thanks to the pyramid forever and ever. But the laborers had to work fast because Cheops was growing old and weak, and he might die before they were finished. The workers labored sun-up to sundown. After years of brutal work, they had finished most of the pyramid, but only on the outside. On the inside, there was much work to be done to protect the pharaoh and his treasures. Someone might get in and steal the treasures. The engineers came up with a plan so that some interior passageways would lead to dead ends, and others had hidden death traps. If someone tried to desecrate the pharaoh's tomb, the intruder would die during the attempt. This way, once the pyramid was sealed, no one could ever enter again, and the pharaoh would eternally rest at peace with his riches. "20 years later, the pyramid was finally finished. It measured almost 500 feet tall and 750 feet wide. In fact, 8 soccer fields and a 40-story building could have fit inside. As it was the biggest pyramid in the whole empire, they crowned it with an enormous piece of gold. Cheops had died 4 years before it was finished, though, so he never saw his great masterpiece in all its glory. The pharaoh's body was embalmed and converted into a mummy to be preserved for his funeral and well beyond. So when the time came for the spectacular funeral, people flooded in, both to say goodbye to the pharaoh and to greet his new masterpiece. After the funeral, most everyone left the pyramid through the main door, but some of the workers stayed. Their job was to close the exit off from inside and leave through a secret passage that led to an exterior stone which was identical to all of the others. This was how they planned to assure that no one would ever find a way in. The secret exit would be safe forever. This secret has been kept intact for 4,500 years. Even today, despite all of the modern technology and research, experts have not been able to solve all of the mysteries inside. Some secrets were buried with those who worked so hard to build one of the 7 great wonders of the ancient world, Cheops' Pyramid, in the city of Cairo.